So this is an example of an allocation of resources problem. So I'm doing question 9 on page 288 because it's quite different to the worked example. So basically, Leaving Cert student, she has 5 days. So we have 5 days in total. And she's going to spend these days studying 3 subjects that she has left, and at least 1 day to each. So she won't divide up the day between 2 or 3 subjects. So she's only doing 1 subject per day. That just makes it easier. And then we have to use dynamic programming. Okay, so remember the stages in these types of questions are always just the resources we're talking about. So I guess we'll start off with classical studies. Now remember, in dynamic programming, at least for the Leaving Cert, we're always starting from the end. So that means since she has to use at least 1 day for each subject, this is the end. So she'd already used at least 1 for economics and at least 1 for applied maths. That means she could only have 3 left here. So she could only have 3 left here. She could have 2 left, or she could have 1 left, but she couldn't have 0 left because remember she has to use at least 1 day for each subject. And then obviously she doesn't want to waste any days, so we want to spend 3 days. If we have 3 days left, this is the last one, so we want to spend all 3 days studying, which means we have 0 left. If she has 2 days left, she wants to spend all of them. If she has 1 day left, she wants to do all of them. Because there's no point in her having 3 days left and only spending 2 days studying, and then she's done. Because remember, this is the end, so there's no more subjects after this. So you could do 3, 2, and 1, like 3 and then separate and then do 2 and 1, but the thing is there's no point, it'll just waste time, but you wouldn't technically get the wrong answer. So if she spends all 3 days studying classical studies, she'll get an extra 26, and that's the optimal value for this state because it's the only value. For 2 days is 21 star because that's the optimal value, only value, and then 11 star optimal value, only value. So that one's fairly straight, self-explanatory. We can't have 0 because she needs at least 1 day for classical studies. So now we'll look at economics. So for economics, this is the middle one. So we've already done applied maths, which means we have to spend at least 1 day on that. So that means we might have 4 days left here. Now we can't spend 4 days studying economics. I think it says she can only do 3 days at a time or something. No, it doesn't say that, but either way, we can't do 4 days because if we spend 4 days, then we'd have no days left for classical studies. So we can't do 4 days because we'd have 0 left, but we need at least 1 day for classical studies. So 3, we could spend 2 days, we could spend 1 day. We can't spend 0 because remember, at least 1 day for each subject, which means we have 1 day left, 2 days left, or 3 days left. So they correspond with 1 day left, 2 day left, or 3 day left. So that's how the stages interact. Then the other options is we might have 3 days left, in which case we can spend 2 days or 1 day. Again, we can't do 3 or 0 because we need to leave at least 1 day for computer science, and we can't do 0 because we need to do at least 1 day for economics. Sorry, not computer science, classical studies. So this will be 1 day left, and then this would be 2 days left, or she could have 2 days left when she starts studying economics, in which case she needs to spend at least 1 day studying it, and then she has 1 day left for classical studies, and there are all the options. She can't have 1 day left for economics because she needs at least 1 day for economics and for classical studies, so these are all the options. So if we have a look here, so we're looking at spending 3 days on economics. That'll give us 27%. 27, and then after that we'll go on to have 1 day left, which means we're going to get an extra 11 increase after that, which means 38 is the total increase. If we do 2, well then we'll get 17% for economics, plus, and then go up to 2 here, that'll be 21 we get in classical studies, which means we'll have, that'll be 38 again. And then finally, if she spends 1 day on economics, she'll get 9. And then we have 3 days left, so that'll give us 3 days for classical studies, which is an increase of 26. That gives us 35. Yep. The best options here are 38 and 38. They're both actually the same, so it doesn't really matter which one we do. So they're the optimal values for if we had 4 days left. Now, if we had 3 days left, we could spend 2 days on economics, which is 17, an increase in 17. In which case, we have 1 day left for classical studies, so we have 17 plus 11 is 28, or we spend 1 day on economics, which is an increase in 9, plus, and then we spend 2 days on classical studies, which is 21, that gives us 30, so obviously that's the better option if we had 3 days left, so we'll star that. And then finally, if we have 2 days left, we spend 1 day on economics, which is 9%, plus, and then we spend 1 day on classical studies, which is 11, that gives us 20, and that's the only option, so that's the best option if we have 2 days left. Finally, we have applied maths. What are we going to do for this? Well, this is the very start, so we're only have 5 days left. So this is the start. We haven't used any days left God, I can't write the 5. We haven't used any days yet. Therefore, we have 5 days left. And we can only use 3, 2, or 1. Because we can't use 4, because then we'll only have 1 left over, and we need at least 2 left over, 1 for economics and 1 for classical studies. So it's 3, 2, or 1, and we can't have 0, obviously, because we need at least 1 day for each subject. So here, this would give us 2 days left, this would give us 3 days left, this would give us 4 days left. So if we spend 3 days studying applied maths, we get an increase of 25%. Plus, and then we have 2 days left, that means, so that gives an extra 20% after that. So that's equal to 45, an increase of 45. If we spend 2 days on applied maths, we go up by 20%. And then we have 3 days left, and as you can see here, if we have 3 days left, that means that we will get an extra 30. So we'll have plus 30 equals to 50. Sorry, I don't know why I put a star there, because we're not done this state yet. And if we spend 1 day on applied maths, we'll get an increase of 12. Which means we have 4 days left, which corresponds with an increase of 38, which gives us 50. So we actually have a lot of different options. How many days should IFA allocate to each subject for the maximum amount? So we have a few answers, because you can see here we got 50 for both of these, I believe, unless I didn't add them up wrong. So there's a few ways you could do it. So then if we follow it backwards, we have a good few options here, actually. And it's different to the solution in the book, but I think the solution in the book might be wrong, because I was reading it, and it doesn't really make sense. It said the best possible increase in percentage you could get is 33, but you can clearly see that's wrong, because if we just randomly used all 5 days, like for example, if we did, I don't know, 26 and 20, that's already, I guess that's not 1 day for each. But like if we did 1, 1, and 3 here, which gives us 5, we'd get 20 plus 26 is 46. Like the 33 is definitely not the best option, which is what the book said, so I believe it's a mistake. So what I believe should be the right answer is either, so we're going to allocate 2 days to applied maths. Look at that scenario first. So we have option 1 is 2 for applied maths, as you can see here, which means we have 3 days left. And if we have 3 days left, we should spend 1 day on economics. 1 on economics. And then if we spend 1 day on economics, as you can see here, so 3 left, 1 day on economics, means we have 2 days left, and they go into classical studies. So 2 for classical studies. And then our other option is, if we go for this one, we spend 1 day on applied maths, and then we have 4 days left, in which case we can either spend 3 days on economics or 2 days. Let's just go for the 3 days option first. So we have 3 for economics, or we can... And then after that, we have 1 day left, so 1 for classical studies. 1 for classical studies. Then our third option is if we spend 1 day on applied maths, and then we have 4 days left. And then instead of spending 3 days on economics, we can spend 2 days on economics. So 2 for economics. And then we spend, if we spend 2 on economics, we have 2 days left, which is 2 for classical studies. 2 for classical studies. So there are 3 options. How many days should she allocate to each subject? It doesn't say what will the increase be, but the increase is 50%. So I believe that's how you do the question. Let me know if I made a mistake, but because it doesn't line up with the question in the book, or the answers in the book, sorry, but I think they might have messed it up.